On a summer evening in Thuong Hien village, Than Bin province, a fierce storm raged outside, cloaking everything in a thick, swirling mist. Occasional flashes of lightning tore across the sky, startling people and filling them with dread. Just as the villagers hurried home to escape the downpour, Master Thoan's servants rushed out into the streets. They scattered everywhere, desperately searching for his youngest son. Only that morning, before he left, Master Thoan had seen his son playing in the yard. In the afternoon, he had been busy with work in his study and hadn't paid attention. It was only when Hao, one of the house servants, came to call him for dinner that Master Thoan looked around and realized his son was nowhere to be found. He called out, "Phuc, where are you? Phuc!" He called several times, but there was no reply from the boy. It was then that everyone panicked and rushed out to search for him. Master Thoan was nearly 50 this year, but living a life of wealth and comfort, he still looked quite young. Many in the village even joked that he was vigorous enough to marry a few more wives, but Master Thoan would simply laugh it off. Only 2 wives and the house is already bustling. In those days, wealthy men in the village often married 3 or 4 wives. Only Master Thoan, after marrying his second wife, hadn't taken any more. His first wife had given him a son named Tin, who was now 12 years old. His second wife had given birth to a daughter named Yen, who had just turned 10. The first wife was known to be a formidable woman. Therefore, all household matters were under her control. Any money spent on purchases, for anyone other than Master Thoan himself, required her approval. The second wife, on the other hand, being a junior wife, lived a more submissive life. Moreover, she had only given birth to a daughter. She hoped that when Yen grew up, she and Master Thoan would find a suitable family for the girl to marry into. She had no desire to compete for the family inheritance with the first wife and her son. Even if she wanted to, she wouldn't be able to win anything from such a formidable woman. She simply wished for her daughter to live comfortably. For a long time, Master Thoan had only these 2 children. Unexpectedly, one spring day, Master Thoan suddenly brought home a boy about Yen's age. He then proudly announced to the family that Phuc was indeed his long-lost youngest son, and everyone in the household was to treat him well, allowing no one to disrespect Phuc's humble origins. The first wife and second wife were utterly astonished when they learned the truth. Master Thoan had a child from outside. To speak of Phuc's mother, we must go back over 10 years. At that time, Master Thoan was still a healthy young man, having been married to his first wife for only a short period. His first wife was pregnant with Tin. Master Thoan was close friends with Master Thong from the neighboring village. The 2 often did business together. Master Thoan frequently visited his friend's house to eat, drink, and stay overnight. On many such occasions, he found himself captivated by Phung's beauty. She was a servant in Master Thong's house, only 16 years old. Though she dressed simply in worn clothes, Phung exuded the gentle, graceful charm of a young woman coming into her own. Master Thoan would often secretly admire her while Phung tirelessly went about her work. Master Thong also noticed his friend's intentions towards his servant girl. He spoke, "If you want to marry her, bring a proper betrothal gift, my friend. Phung's parents have both passed away. Previously, they had borrowed money from Master Thong's family but couldn't repay it. Phung had come to work for Master Thong to pay off her parents' debt, and even now, she hadn't finished." Hearing this, Master Thoan merely nodded and chuckled, admitting he genuinely liked the girl. However, he didn't want her to become his concubine because, living with the first wife and second wife, Phung would likely suffer much hardship. Judging by her gentle and unassuming nature, unlike others, Master Thoan simply wished to admire Phung's beauty from afar. She should be married to an honest, humble husband more fitting for her, he thought. Yet, Master Thoan underestimated his own feelings. With frequent visits to Master Thong's house, his affection for Phung grew steadily, then ignited into a burning passion. Finally, unable to endure the longing and yearning day and night, Master Thoan used a large sum of money to buy Phung's freedom, rescuing her from her life as an indentured servant. Master Thong, being a greedy man, happily let Master Thoan take her, caring nothing for her future fate. Though he deeply loved and wished to protect Phung, Master Thoan still refused to marry her and bring her home. Instead, he bought a small house in the district town for Phung to live in. Phung, born into poverty, never dared to dream of such a high status. Grateful for the wealthy master's compassion, she obediently listened to his every word. However, having been accustomed to manual labor every day, she suddenly found herself living a life of leisure, with Master Thoan not frequently by her side. Phuc grew bored and asked Master Thoan to let her go out and work. Of course, he wouldn't allow the woman he loved to suffer any more hardships. Master Thoan promptly bought a secluded garden plot for Phuc to cultivate, planting chickens, giving her something to occupy herself with. Occasionally, when he had business in the district, he would visit her. Seeing Phuc diligently working in her garden, Master Thoan felt a surge of joy he had never experienced with his 2 wives. Master Thoan refused to marry Phuc and make her his 3rd wife. Perhaps it was because he feared that once she became his wife, he would lose the exhilarating, blissful feeling he got whenever he secretly went to meet her. Time passed this way for several years, and they believed their lives would remain peaceful. Until one day, Phuc discovered she was pregnant with Master Thoan's child. She was filled with immense worry and fear, uncertain of what the future held for her and her child. Many times, she tried to gauge Master Thoan's thoughts. He had firmly stated that he did not want her to be pregnant. Partly because he feared she would suffer during that difficult time, and also because if she became pregnant, he wouldn't be able to be intimate with her. His first wife had already given birth to a son, now 2 years old, and his second wife was also 5 months pregnant. Therefore, he didn't want any more children. Even if he did, it wouldn't be at this time. Phuc noticed that if she kept bringing up the issue, "What if I truly am pregnant, what will we do then?" Master Thoan's demeanor would change. His face would grow grave, as if, should Phuc genuinely be pregnant, he would find a way to make the child die within its mother's womb. Just thinking about it, Phuc felt a shiver of dread. Phuc desperately wished to bear a child for Master Thoan. Although she had no official status, Master Thoan treated her very well. She was just a girl from a poor, low-status family, and now living in comfort, she was immensely grateful to Master Thoan. She only hoped to repay him with her entire being. However, during their 2 years together, Master Thoan always gave Phuc a type of medicine after each intimate encounter to prevent her from getting pregnant. But one time, Master Thoan was in a hurry and forgot to bring the medicine. Perhaps it was that very time that led Phuc to conceive this child. In the early days, she constantly tried to hide her bouts of nausea, swallowing them back. Whatever she did, she felt very tired. Before this, she had been accustomed to manual labor. One time, Master Thoan noticed her pale complexion and worried. "Are you overworking yourself and getting sick? Or should I get you some strengthening medicine?" Phuc knew Master Thoan genuinely cared, but how could she tell him she was pregnant? Every time she was intimate with Master Thoan, Phuc trembled with fear that he would discover her secret, and as time passed, it became increasingly difficult to conceal her condition. Many nights, lying alone in bed, Phuc wept. Finally, she decided to take a small amount of money and leave. Phuc truly wanted to bear this child, regardless of whether Master Thoan was displeased. To protect the child in her womb, Phuc could only run away to another place. When Master Thoan discovered this several days later, he frantically searched everywhere for Phuc. He even went to Master Thoan's house to inquire, but he only received shaking heads. No one knew where Phuc had gone. For a long time afterward, Master Thoan occasionally visited the house in the district, hoping that one day Phuc might return. 1 year, 2 years, then many years passed, but Master Thoan never saw any trace of her. Finally, he gave up, no longer holding out hope for her return. Just when Master Thoan thought his life would continue as it was, living with his 2 wives and children, one day, as he sat drinking tea at a tea house at the edge of the village, a man approached him and whispered something in his ear. Immediately, Master Thoan put down his teacup and followed the man. It turned out that Phuc had returned to the small house in the district, bringing with her a child around 9 or 10 years old. It was Phuc, Master Thoan's youngest son, whom Phuc had secretly given birth to all those years ago. 10 years had passed, but Master Thoan was incredibly moved upon seeing her again. Her frail appearance made his heart ache even more for the mother and child. "Why did you leave me for all these years?" Phuc sobbed, her affection for him still true. Seeing the frightened child clinging to his mother, with a face so much like his own when he was young, Master Thoan realized how selfish he had been. If only he had married her honorably, they wouldn't have been separated for so many years. In truth, Phuc didn't return to rekindle their old love, but because for all those years she had struggled alone to raise her son in a foreign place. The hardships of life had taken a heavy toll on her, severely impacting Phuc's health. Previously, she had met a master laying hoe on the road. Seeing Phung's pale complexion, he took her pulse, then looked at her with sorrowful eyes. You don't have much time left. Do what you must, or it will be too late. Hearing those words was like a blow to her ears. Phung realized her body had been constantly tired recently, but she never imagined she would have to leave so soon. For all these years, Phung had worked relentlessly, only hoping Phuc would be well-fed and warmly clothed. Many nights, lying beside her son, she would toss and turn, pondering the future. Phung sighed, feeling deep pity for her child. Finally, after years of agonizing, Phung decided to return and seek out Master Thoan. Now Phuc was almost 10. No matter what, a fierce tiger wouldn't devour its own cub, would it? She didn't ask for much, only that Master Thoan accept Phuc and ensure his upbringing, helping him become a decent person. After the emotional reunion, Master Thoan sat down before the mother and son. Come here, let me see you. Perhaps due to meeting a stranger, Phuc was still shy. He looked up at his mother, received her reassuring glance, then ran and threw himself into Master Thoan's lap. Looking at the frail, skinny child in his arms, Master Thoan silently wiped away a tear. From that day, Phung moved into the house in the district that Master Thoan had originally bought, needing only a housekeeper to care for it. Master Thoan immediately sought out Master Lang Ho to treat Phung. However, her condition only worsened. Master Lang Ho shook his head sadly. If only Phung had met Master Lang Ho sooner, perhaps her illness wouldn't be so severe, he thought. Phuc sat by his mother's bed, her face pale, whimpering, Mama, please don't leave me. Phuc was too young to understand the misfortune about to befall him. Phung could only shed silent tears, her heart aching. It was her own decision to bring this child into the world. Yet now she couldn't stay to care for him as he suffered. Master Thoan held Phung's emaciated hand. Rest assured, I will raise our son to be a good man. Phung looked at Master Thoan, her eyes full of affection, then quickly, her breath grew fainter. Phung left this world in the arms of the man she loved so dearly. Master Thoan wept silently. After ensuring Phung was laid to rest in a peaceful, beautiful grave, Master Thoan finally brought Phuc home. Before the assembled family, he declared in a clear voice, He is my youngest son. From now on, everyone in this house must treat him just like Tin and Yen. If I ever hear of anyone treating him poorly, do not blame me for my cruelty. With Master Thoan's words, no one in the household dared to show disrespect. Even the first wife, formidable as she was, seemed to swallow her bitterness, silently accepting the illegitimate child into the household. If only his mother were still alive, she thought, I would find every way to drive them out of this house. But alas, Phung was dead, leaving the child an orphan. How could Master Thoan possibly abandon him? For the second wife and Yen, Phuc's presence in the house didn't affect them much. Their lives would remain the same whether he was there or not. But she was certainly worried deep down, because Phuc was a boy, and he had just lost his mother, so Master Thoan openly doted on him. Any servant who raised their voice at Phuc immediately met Master Thoan's piercing glare. In the future, Phuc would surely receive a share of the inheritance, perhaps even a larger portion than Tin. From the day Phuc arrived, Yen often sought him out to play. The second wife allowed the two children to grow close. After all, he was just a pitiful child. Without his mother's care in the days to come, his life would be filled with sorrow. She didn't need to be harsh with a child like that. In contrast to the second wife's thoughts, the first wife forbade Phuc from coming near her son. From a young age, Tin had been pampered and instilled with the belief that everything in the house would one day belong to him. Not even Yen, Tin's own sister, was to receive a share. Now, Master Thoan had brought home another son. Every time Tin saw Phuc, he openly displayed his displeasure. Master Thoan noticed this too, but because the first wife wasn't doing anything overtly excessive, he said nothing. Every day, he tried to spend more time playing with his son. Many nights, missing his mother deeply, Phuc would lie in bed and sadly ask, Why has Mama been gone so long? Doesn't Mama love me anymore? Master Thoan gently stroked Phuc's hair and comforted him. Mama has gone to a very faraway place, where she no longer suffers from pain or illness. Hearing that his mother was no longer in pain, Phuc stopped crying so fiercely. He quietly drifted off to sleep. The open love and indulgence Master Thoan showed his youngest son made the first wife seethe with resentment. No matter how formidable she was, she still feared her husband's authority. She could only harbor her anger and direct harsh words at Phuc behind Master Thoan's back. From then on, whenever Master Thoan went out, he often took Phuc with him. Previously, only Tin used to accompany him. Tin himself rarely got to go out and play with Master Thoan. Now, that position had changed. The first wife grew even more resentful of Phuc. One time, as Phuc was wandering and playing in the yard, the first wife fiercely pinched his arm and hurled insults at him. "You illegitimate brat, why didn't you die with your mother?" Master Thoan had kept Phuc from knowing about his mother's death. When Phung passed away, he had only told Phuc that she needed to go to another place to be cured of her illness, asking Phuc not to be sad even without his mother by his side. Now, hearing the first wife say his mother was dead, Phuc burst into tears. Hearing the boys' cries from the yard, Master Thoan rushed out to see what was happening. "What's wrong, son?" Phuc, tears streaming, pointed at the first wife and said, "She said my mother is dead." While it was true, Master Thoan had deliberately kept the truth from Phuc to protect him, intending to tell him about his mother's death when he was a little older. Master Thoan turned to his wife, his eyes flashing angrily. But the first wife showed no fear. For her son, she would do anything. Hurting a child with words was nothing to her. She haughtily turned and walked back inside, leaving Master Thoan to comfort his youngest son. After that, Phuc gradually got used to his new life. Being young, he easily forgot the sadness of missing his mother. Every day, he happily played with Yen, until one day, dark clouds gathered over Thuong village. Master Thoan had business in the district, but seeing that it was about to rain, he decided not to take Phuc with him. So, on that day, only the first wife and Tin were home. The second wife and Yen had gone out to play the day before. Before leaving, Master Thoan specifically instructed how to keep a close eye on Phuc, not to let him wander outside and get lost. However, that day Hao was very busy with work. From time to time, he glanced over and saw Phuc still playing in the yard, so he didn't pay much attention. By late afternoon, when the rain poured down, Hao didn't see Phuc in the yard anymore, so he assumed the boy had gone into his room. It wasn't until dinner time, when Master Thoan sat at the dining table, that he asked where his son was and discovered Phuc was nowhere to be seen. At this, Hao frantically ran up from the kitchen, looked at Master Thoan and replied, "Perhaps he's in his room. I'll go call him." But when Hao pushed open the door, the room was empty. Hao rushed out, his face like he was about to cry. "The young master, the young master," Hao stammered, unable to form words. Master Thoan stood up and went into the room. Phuc was not there. Seeing this, Hao immediately disregarded the heavy rain outside and ran to search around the house, calling out Phuc's name for a long time. Yet there was no reply from Phuc. Finally, in Master Thoan's large garden, there was a very big pond covered entirely with duckweed. But since arriving here, Phuc had never ventured near it because, as a child, his mother had warned him not to go to such dangerous places. Consequently, neither Master Thoan nor Hao considered the possibility that Phuc had fallen into the pond and drowned. That night, both Master Thoan and his servants lit lamps and ran all over the village, searching for Phuc. Master Thoan went to every house, knocking on doors to ask the villagers if his son had wandered off playing and forgotten his way home. However, time after time, he only received shaking heads. No one in Thuong village had seen Phuc, because the truth was, Phuc had never left his own house. It wasn't until dawn that Master Thoan, distraught, returned home. The servants, seeing their master's emaciated appearance after just one night, felt immense remorse. "If only we had paid a little more attention to Phuc, perhaps this wouldn't have happened." Master Thoan returned home, intending to rest a little before going out again to continue searching for his son. The first wife and Tin had spent the night going around to neighboring houses asking for news, but by midnight, Tin grew sleepy, so she brought him home. Now, the first wife entered the room and woke Tin up. Tin was still tossing and turning in bed, his voice groggy with sleep. "Have you found him yet, Mama?" The first wife sighed and replied, "Not yet." Because his mother had instilled negative thoughts in his mind, Tin secretly hoped Phuc wouldn't return. Yet, when this seemed to be becoming a reality, he felt a slight panic. Master Thoan's household also had a female servant named Nem. She had gone home to care for her ailing grandfather and only returned that morning. Upon entering the house and sensing the gloomy atmosphere, she called Hao out and asked, "What happened?" Hao's face was utterly distraught as he replied in despair, "Young Master Phuc has been missing since last night. Master Thoan is still in his room, refusing to come out or eat." Nem and Hao didn't dare to disturb him. Phuc had always been cared for by Nem, who bathed and looked after him. Now that he was missing, she was also deeply worried. Nem immediately put down her bag in her room, then went with How to search for Phuc. She looked at How and asked, "Have you looked for him in the pond yet?" It was then that How suddenly realized, indeed, since last night, he hadn't even thought to check the pond for Phuc. How frantically ran to the pond at the end of the garden, with Nem rushing behind him. Together, they began scooping the duckweed from the water onto the bank. When they cleared a section of the pond's surface, Nem suddenly cried out in alarm. Floating, there was a body none other than Phuc, Master Thoan's youngest son. At this moment, the small figure was lying face down on the water, but How recognized the clothes instantly. He had dressed his young master in them yesterday. How plunged into the pond to bring the body to shore. Nem, her body trembling, was sobbing and calling for Master Thoan and his wives. Master Thoan, exhausted in his room, heard Nem's cries and sprang fully awake. Without even grabbing his sandals, he rushed out barefoot. By the time he arrived, How had already brought Phuc's body to the bank. Master Thoan fell to his knees, his hands trembling as he touched his son's face. Immediately, a stream of fresh red blood gushed from Phuc's mouth. Master Thoan let out a heartbroken scream, "My son." Phuc's funeral was held shortly after. The entire Thuong Hien village, upon hearing the story, grieved for the boy's short life. Everyone felt immense pity for Master Thoan. He had only just welcomed this son into his life for a short time. Now, before he could even make up for Phuc's past hardships, the two were quickly separated by life and death. Master Thoan, overwhelmed with grief, clung to Phuc's body. The second wife and Yen rushed back. Hearing that Phuc had drowned in the pond, little Yen burst into tears. Despite being restrained by the second wife, she rushed to the bed where Phuc's body lay and sobbed uncontrollably. Nem had to run in and pull her away, wiping her own tears which were falling thickly on the deceased. In this house, if you were to ask who loved Phuc the most, besides Master Thoan, it was Yen. Previously, there were only 2 siblings in the house, but because the first wife disliked Yen and her mother, Yen wasn't very close to Tin. Every day, she felt lonely. Since Phuc came to live there, Yen had become much more lively. Thanks to Phuc, she received more attention from Master Thoan. This had made Yen happy throughout the past period, never thinking she would have to be separated from her younger brother like this. On the night before the burial, only Master Thoan remained awake until late, after all neighbors and relatives had left. How was still standing mournfully by Phuc's coffin, but Master Thoan had gently pushed him away to go to sleep and had even left early to prepare for the burial. How, seeing Master Thoan's instruction, retreated to the servants' quarters. The room was empty, save for a small coffin. Master Thoan stared blankly at the flickering oil lamp, seemingly numb with the pain of losing his son. As Master Thoan reminisced about the brief time he had with Phuc, a dark shadow glided past the door. He thought it was How, still awake. "What are you still doing up, boy?" But no one replied to Master Thoan. Feeling a strange unease, he slowly got up and stepped outside. He looked around but saw no one. Master Thoan whispered, "Is there someone strange? Who is that?" He then turned back inside to light an incense stick for his son. Master Thoan did not know that just as he turned away, a dark shadow lingered in the hallway, gazing at Phuc's coffin. The eyes of this figure held an immense, unbearable pain. Master Thoan performed a ritual for Phuc, then sat down and poured himself a cup of tea. He didn't know how long he sat there lost in thought before drifting off to sleep. It wasn't until nearly dawn, hearing the voices of the servants in the house, that Master Thoan startled awake. Nem walked in from outside, and he immediately asked, "What time is it now?" Nem was carrying a teapot. She had woken up early to go to the kitchen to brew tea, so that later, when people arrived, they would have something to drink. The room was utterly silent. Suddenly, Master Thoan's voice rang out, startling her. "Oh, Master, you made my heart jump. It's almost the 5th watch now." Hearing her, Master Thoan stretched and stood up. The oil lamp on Phuc's coffin was flickering faintly, and a gust of wind from outside almost extinguished the weak flame. Luckily, Master Thoan quickly closed the door. At this moment, Master Modao arrived to conduct the funeral rites and escort the deceased to the burial ground. The first wife and Tin, and the second wife and Yen, were all present in the room to offer the last meal to Phuc. If anyone had been observant, they would have noticed. As everyone bowed their heads, reciting prayers and seeking salvation for Phuc's soul, one woman among them quietly curled her lips into a sinister smile. After Phuc's funeral was completed, the grave was neatly mounded by the young men of the village. Master Thoan felt a lingering sorrow, turning his head to look back several times before finally making his way heavily, step by step, back home. From that day on, Master Thoan became withdrawn, speaking little. If he had no business, he would stay in his room all day. At mealtimes, he would eat perfunctorily and then retreat. The first wife, seeing this, thought, "Good, he won't meddle in my affairs anymore." She had thought that life in Master Thoan's family would return to normal. But a few days after Phuc's death, strange phenomena began to occur in Master Thoan's house. Master Thoan felt unwell. After dinner, he went to his room to lie down. In the preceding days, the exhaustion and worry over Phuc had pushed his body to its limit. So, as soon as he lay down, Master Thoan quickly fell into a deep sleep. In a hazy dream, he saw Phuc and his mother appear. Phuc stood at the doorway, looking at him with reproachful eyes. She was clearly angry with him for not having taken good care of their son. Phuc stood beside his mother, his clothes soaked, water dripping and forming puddles at their feet. The boy was sobbing uncontrollably, his eyes fixed as if heartbroken by some deep grievance. Master Thoan missed Phuc and Phuc terribly. He reached out his hand towards the mother and son and said, "My dear, I am so sorry." As Master Thoan spoke, tears streamed down his face. However, Phuc and his mother said nothing, leaving Master Thoan standing there, plunged into extreme agony. The two of them turned and walked away. Seeing this, Master Thoan hastily chased after them. Phuc and his mother stopped by the pond at the end of the garden. Both directed their gaze toward the first wife's room with fierce resentment. But Master Thoan, in his panic, didn't notice this. Seeing Phuc standing close to the deadly, water-filled pond, Master Thoan quickly said, "Come, son, give me your hand." But Phuc paid no attention to Master Thoan's words. He pulled his mother along and both plunged into the pond. Master Thoan startled awake, shaken by his nightmare. Master Thoan, stunned, realized it had all been just a dream. Lying in bed, he sighed, tossing and turning, wondering if Phuc and his mother were trying to warn him about something through the dream. The next day, Master Thoan, along with the second wife and Yen, went out. The second wife's mother had been in poor health recently, fearing she didn't have much time left. The second wife was taking advantage of this time to care for her mother. Master Thoan, distressed by Phuc's death, felt a deep sense of remorse for not having taken good care of his son. The longer he stayed in the house, the more suffocated he felt. So, he took Yen and her mother to visit his mother-in-law, and then to talk to the second wife's brother to ease tensions. In the house, only Tin, his mother, and the servants remained. Everything seemed to return to normal until a few nights later. After waiting for Tin to fall asleep, the first wife returned to her own room. She hadn't even had time to take off her outer garment before lying down. She quickly fumbled with her clothes, then hurried to Tin's room. Tin sat huddled in the corner of his bed, his eyes wide with fear, making her anxious. "What's wrong, Tin?" Tin, staring into the empty space before him, stammered, Mama, I saw someone, a woman, I'm so scared." Hearing Tin's words, the first wife started, her eyes darting around the room. The oil lamp still flickered, casting light into every corner. But she saw no one. She figured her son had just had a nightmare. The first wife was about to sit down and comfort Tin so he could sleep peacefully. With his mother by his side, Tin's body still trembled uncontrollably. She pulled him into her arms, making Tin feel safe. After a long while, hearing her son's steady breathing, she sighed in relief. She gently placed a thin blanket over Tin and tiptoed back to her room. It was very late by now. The first wife lay down in bed, but then she heard a gurgling sound, like something submerging in water. She tried to listen intently, but the sound disappeared. Just as she was about to close her eyes to sleep, the gurgling sound returned, growing louder each time, grating on her ears. Tired from the day, this sound irritated her. She got up, put on her outer robe, and took the oil lamp. But outside, near her room, there was nothing that could produce such a sound from water. She felt utterly bewildered. Just as she was about to turn back inside, she suddenly sensed someone brush past her, sending shivers down her spine. It was well past midnight, and there were few people awake in the house. If someone was still moving around at this hour, it could very well be a thief. However, after the first wife called out, a trembling voice replied, "It's me, madam." It turned out Nem had drunk a lot of water that evening, and despite being afraid of ghosts, she couldn't hold it, so she had gone to the outhouse. On her way back, passing by the first wife, she hadn't seen her standing there. Startled by Nem, the first wife snapped, "Why aren't you hurrying back inside, you silly girl?" Nem nodded and went back to her room. The first wife looked around again, finding no sign of an intruder in the house, but her eyes caught a puddle of water in the courtyard. She didn't know why it was there. The first wife lowered her lamp to see more clearly. She didn't notice anything strange. Finally, she sighed and returned to her room to sleep. At that very moment, the puddle of water in the courtyard also vanished without a trace. Outside the two windows of the first wife's room, two glowing red eyes watched her every move. However, from that moment until morning, the first wife heard that sound no more. When the sun rose, signaling a new day, Tin rushed into his mother's room, calling out loudly, "Mama, can I go play with Bao today, Mama?" The first wife, tired, sat up and looked at her son, who seemed much more cheerful, having surely forgotten the events of last night. The first wife gave a gentle smile. "Yes, after you eat, you can go." That morning, only Tin and his mother were having breakfast. Tin ate his bowl of porridge quickly, leaving only a little at the bottom. Before he even finished wiping his mouth, he quickly ran out to the alley. The first wife hurried after him, calling, "Be home by noon, son." Hearing no reply from Tin, the first wife could only shake her head helplessly, wondering whose temperament he had inherited. She was left alone at the table, filled with food, but her mouth felt bland. Everything she tasted was flavorless. The first wife ate a little, then stood up, wrapping up the food. She hadn't slept well last night, so now her eyes were heavy. She planned to lie down for a short rest, then get up to see how the servants were working. Just as she was about to doze off, she suddenly heard Nem's panicked voice from outside. She quickly sat up, stepped out, and demanded, "What's all this commotion about, girl?" Nem stammered. Young Master Tin has fallen into Master Bao's pond. Hao is rushing over there to bring him back." Hearing this, the first wife's hands and feet went numb. She couldn't stand steadily. Nem had to quickly rush over and support her. It took a long while for the first wife to regain her composure. She told Nem to take her to Master Bao's house to see Tin. Master Bao was Bao's father, the child Tin had asked his mother to play with earlier that morning. Tin and Bao were about the same age. Normally, because the first wife didn't allow Tin to play with Yen, he often felt bored and would seek out Bao to play with. Master Bao's family wasn't as wealthy as Master Thoan's, but they were considered well off. They didn't lack food or servants in their house. That's why the first wife hadn't prevented her son from going to play with Bao. She never expected such an unfortunate incident to happen. Arriving at Master Bao's house, they found a crowd gathered around the pond. Just then, Bao and Bom, Master Bao's servants, managed to retrieve Tin. Both of them pulled the boy to the shore. The first wife looked at Tin's shivering body and sobbed hysterically. Luckily, as soon as Tin fell into the water, Bao had run to call for help. That's why Bao and Bom were able to rescue him in time, saving his life. They carried Tin on their shoulders and ran towards the courtyard. Upon seeing Tin, they immediately slapped his back a few times. Water gushed from his mouth. The first wife, now fully awake, her steps heavy, rushed to her son's side. "Tin, my son, are you all right?" Tin, traumatized by the ordeal, saw his mother and threw himself into her arms, sobbing. Because his clothes were soaked and he had been in the cold water for too long, he was suffering from a chill. They immediately carried Tin back home. Nem also quickly ran to find Master Lang Ho to prescribe medicine. However, for some reason, even after being brought back from Master Bao's house, changed into dry clothes and wrapped in blankets, Tin's body still trembled uncontrollably. He was burning with fever, drenched in sweat. Master Lang Ho took Tin's pulse, then prescribed several doses of medicine, instructing the family to give them to him for 3 days. If Tin's condition didn't improve, they were to send someone to fetch him. The first wife took the medicine and saw Master Lang Ho off. On the other side, Master Thoan and the second wife and Yen heard the news and rushed back. "What now? Tin is my only remaining son. If anything happens to him, I don't know how I'll live." Upon arriving home, he immediately ran into Tin's room. Tin's body was radiating heat, yet Tin himself kept complaining of being cold. Seeing this, Master Thoan looked at his wife, silently questioning. The first wife understood and explained. Master Lang Ho said he was in the water too long and caught a cold. Everyone assumed that after finishing the 3 doses of medicine, Tin would recover. But 3 days later, not only did Tin not get better, but he became increasingly unconscious. Sometimes he would mumble something that no one could clearly understand. The first wife, distraught, sent Hao to find Master Lang Ho again. When Master Lang Ho arrived, he himself felt extremely surprised. In Truong Dien village, no one who had taken his medicine had ever failed to recover like this. Clearly, a few days ago, when he took Tin's pulse, he hadn't detected any illness, apart from being immersed in cold water for a long time and his panic affecting his qi and blood. Master Lang Ho had carefully prescribed the best tonic herbs for Tin, yet now Tin's fever seemed even worse. However, after taking his pulse, Master Lang Ho became even more puzzled. Tin's pulse was perfectly stable. He should have recovered from the fever by now. Master Lang Ho pondered for a long time, as if something had just occurred to him. He looked at Master Thoan and slowly said, "Perhaps your son is not suffering from a simple cold. If I'm not mistaken, he might be haunted by a ghost." Tin's condition now closely resembled that of Le, a villager's child. Master Lang Ho had certainly encountered such cases before. 2 years prior, Old Y's son Tam had suddenly developed a high fever. Later, Master Mo Dao, while drinking tea at Old Y's house, noticed something unusual. That very night, Master Mo Dao set up an altar and captured the ghost hiding in Tam's body. People said that if Old Y had hesitated a little longer, he would have lost his son. Master Lang Ho wasn't very knowledgeable about ghosts and spirits, but he was exceptionally skilled in understanding a person's pulse, qi, and blood. He could confidently affirm that Tin's body had no physical problems. Yet, Tin's body was shaking uncontrollably, radiating heat like a furnace. This could only be due to a ghost residing within him. The first wife was utterly bewildered by Master Lang Ho's words. Years ago, when she first became a daughter-in-law in this village, while talking with the villagers of Thuong Hien, she learned that someone had drowned in Master Bao's pond. It was his third younger brother. After his death, Master Bao's family had to invite a shaman to perform rituals for several days and nights to bring his soul back. Since then, no one had ever seen his ghost appear there. So, whose ghost could be clinging to Tin now? The first wife's worry was now evident on her face. She looked at Master Thoan and whispered, "What should we do now, husband? Should we invite Master Mo Dao to perform a ritual for our son to recover?" Master Thoan was a businessman and didn't believe in ghosts, but he was willing to humor his wife and son. He should just take his medicine. Why bring Master Mo Dao here? Master Thoan told Master Lang Ho, "Just give him a few more doses of tonic medicine, Master. You don't need to return." The problem was that Master Lang Ho had already prescribed the best herbs. He couldn't possibly find anything better now. However, since Master Thoan had spoken, Master Lang Ho could only comply. And so, Master Lang Ho began preparing the medicine, silently hoping that things were not as he feared. That night, the first wife stayed in Tin's room to care for him. Every now and then, she would startle and wipe her son's body. Sometimes, she would pile thick blankets on Tin, yet he still complained of being cold. Powerless, the first wife didn't know what to do. She just sat beside her son, her heart aching with worry. Sometime in the night, Tin opened his mouth and said something like, "Come here." She didn't know what Tin was dreaming about, but he looked frightened, repeatedly waving his hands in front of him as if warding someone off. "Tin, wake up. Tin, what's wrong?" When his mother called him, Tin opened his weary eyes. "Mama, I'm scared. Don't leave me, Mama." The next morning, the first wife had Hao look after Tin while she hurried off somewhere unknown to anyone. Near noon, the first wife returned. She entered Tin's room, quickly closed the door, and then secretly gave Tin something to drink. By afternoon, Tin's fever had subsided, his body no longer radiated heat as before, and his mind was clear. He no longer mumbled or showed fear. The first wife was overjoyed. It truly worked. Whether it was the effect of the item she brought back or not, Tin had genuinely recovered after a few days. Everyone in the house breathed a sigh of relief. Master Thoan sent for Master Lang Ho to examine his son. After taking Tin's pulse and checking his body, Master Lang Ho felt something strange but couldn't explain it. Tin's fever was gone, and his pulse showed no problems. However, his outward demeanor was utterly unlike himself. How could someone who had just fallen into a deep pond and nearly lost his life forget such a terrifying experience in just a few days? Moreover, at this very moment, as Master Lang Ho was examining Tin, the boy looked at him with a radiant smile. Master Lang Ho felt he had seen this expression on someone else before, but he couldn't recall who it was. Master Lang Ho still prescribed a few doses of medicine to regulate Tin's qi and blood. If nothing untoward happened in the next few days, Master Thoan's family could rest assured about Tin's health. At dinner that evening, Tin demanded to eat with the whole family. He didn't want to eat porridge as he usually did. The first wife was still worried about her son, who had just recovered from an illness. Eating so much wouldn't be good for his stomach, she thought. Yet, Tin stubbornly insisted that she let him eat out with everyone. Finally, the first wife reluctantly gave in to her son's wishes. Everyone expected Tin to only eat a few bites, but to their astonishment, he ate 3 bowls of rice straight away. Seeing Tin deliberately intending to take another bowl, the first wife quickly raised her hand to stop him. "That's enough, you'll get sick if you eat any more. You don't usually eat this much." Innocent Yen looked at Tin with wide eyes and blurted out, "Tin, you're eating just like Phuc used to." In the past, when Feng was still alive, she had tried her best to care for Phuc, but as a single woman in a foreign land, she couldn't earn much money. Therefore, the mother and son often faced hunger. Phuc knew his mother tried her best to provide for him, and he never resented her. However, he was still a growing child. When he came to live with Master Thoan's family, there was always an abundance of delicious food on the table. So, Phuc would eat 3 or 4 bowls of rice at every meal. His appetite was excellent. He could eat as much as he wanted without any problems. Master Thoan, seeing this, grew even fonder of the boy. Tin, on the other hand, born into a wealthy family, had been pampered by the first wife since childhood, eating all the delicacies imaginable. As a result, at mealtimes, even when a feast was laid out, Tin would still demand his mother cook this or that dish to his liking. If it wasn't to his taste, he would throw a tantrum and refuse to eat. But today, Tin was unlike his usual self. He sat down and ate his rice without waiting for any other dishes or showing any displeasure. That's why Yen thought his current demeanor somewhat resembled Phuc's. The second wife, hearing her daughter suddenly mention Phuc, cast a look at Yen and shook her head. Yen understood, quickly covered her mouth, and glanced fearfully at Master Thoan. As Master Thoan said nothing, the little girl uncovered her mouth and continued to eat quietly. At first, Tin seemed displeased with Yen, as he usually was, but then he looked at her and smiled instead. Yen, seeing this, grew even more suspicious. Could it be that Master Lang Ho's words were true and my brother is possessed? She wondered. But then Yen shook her head, dismissing the idea. She had never seen a ghost eat so much, and besides, how could a ghost eat rice like a living person? In the following days, Tin was always lively and often felt hungry. He would sit at the table and eat many bowls of rice. Sometimes, late at night, the servants would even see the first wife in the kitchen preparing food for Tin. Although she was exhausted from lack of sleep, she was overjoyed that her son had recovered. But after only a few days, Tin became sullen and refused to touch a single grain of rice all day. When the first wife asked, Tin would only shake his head and say nothing. Seeing her son like this, the first wife could only leave him to rest in bed. Every now and then, she would go into the room to see if her son was sleeping or awake. This cycle repeated many times. This made the first wife very worried, and she decided to speak to someone about it. This was the very person who had supposedly brought Tin back from his delirious fever a while ago. That evening, after secretly giving Tin a bowl of chicken porridge, which he steadfastly refused to eat, the first wife, taking advantage of the family's distraction, slipped out. The place she went was Master Dai's house, a specialist in making various talismans. Because Master Thoan had previously disagreed with her inviting Master Mo Dao to perform a ritual, she had sought out Master Dai to ask for a peace talisman for Tin. Master Dai had also given her a bottle of snake water to take home for her son to drink, to ward off evil spirits. Indeed, just as Master Dai had said, after Tin drank it, his fever was gone. This made the first wife believe Master Dai's words even more. However, now Tin was sometimes lucid, sometimes confused, and not fully recovered. She went to ask Master Dai if there was any way to save her son. Master Dai was merely a trickster who made talismans. Knowing the first wife was wealthy, he simply wanted to swindle her. How could he possibly know how to exorcise ghosts? But when he thought of the money she possessed, Master Dai grew greedy and decided to lie. "There is a way to save your son, madam, but it will require a lot of money." For the first wife now, Tin's health was paramount. No matter how much money it cost, as long as her son recovered, she was willing to pay. Master Dai mistakenly thought Tin was on the verge of dying from an illness. He looked at the first wife with a knowing smile. Then he turned and went into a dark room, returning a moment later to hand the first wife a yellow talisman with red, winding characters. Master Dai slowly said, "It seems the talisman I gave you last time has faded and lost its power. Go home, burn that talisman, and place this one under your son's pillow. I assure you, in 2 days, he will be as healthy as before." The first wife was overjoyed to hear this. She quickly handed Master Dai a pouch of money, then took the talisman and hurried home. She didn't know that as soon as she left, Master Dai quickly gathered his belongings and all the wealth he had accumulated over time, then fled the village. No one knew where Master Dai originally came from. The people of Thuong Hien village only remembered that a few years ago, on an autumn day, a man claiming to be a sorcerer came to live there. Initially, only a few villagers involved in business came to Master Dai's house for talismans. Whether by luck or not, most of those who sought his talismans later prospered. Therefore, his reputation spread far and wide, and many people came to him for help, allowing him to earn a lot of money. The first wife was also one of those who had brought money to seek good fortune from Master Dai. But people didn't realize that, after a period of calm, anyone who had used Master Dai's talismans eventually encountered tragedies in their lives. Some family members went mad, while others lost their lives. Recently, problems began to arise when Master Dai learned of the first wife's son's illness. That's why he quickly grabbed his money and fled. Only foolish people like the first wife still believed in the power of talismans, unaware that she was about to lose her beloved son. In recent years, Master Thoan's 2 children had both been taught to read and write by a tutor at home. If Phuc had lived, he too would have been educated. Sadly, his life was too short and he died young. Now, only Tin and Yen remained in the house. Whenever Tin was lucid, he would still sit with Yen and listen to the tutor's lessons. That afternoon, after the 2 siblings finished their lessons, Yen asked her mother if she could go out to play, but the second wife did not agree. "Last time, Tin went to Bao's house and something happened. I only have this one daughter. If anything happens to her, I wouldn't be able to live," she thought. So the second wife instructed Yen, "You are only allowed to play in our yard. Absolutely do not sneak off to Bao's house, understood?" Yen was not happy, but she obeyed her mother. She drew a hopscotch grid in the yard and invited Tin to play. Children, however, only play for a little while before getting bored. Tin left Yen alone and hurried to the back of the house. Next to the duckweed-covered pond was a vegetable garden, and in it, butterflies hatched from the vegetables fluttered. Tin, holding a stick, chased them back and forth but couldn't catch any. As he chased a butterfly, he walked very close to the edge of the pond. Previously, the first wife had repeatedly told Tin not to go out there alone. The pond was deep, and the water level was high during this season, making it very dangerous. Moreover, Phuc himself had recently fallen into the pond and drowned. Remembering his mother's warning, Tin suddenly came to his senses. He looked down at the water's surface with a slight start. Today, only a gentle breeze blew, causing ripples across the water. Since Phuc's death, Hao had pulled the duckweed on the pond to one side to prevent anyone who fell in from being covered and unnoticed. Tin was absently gazing at his reflection in the water. Suddenly, Tin's reflection became distorted by the ripples. Then, abruptly, a hand emerged from the surface of the pond. Tin stumbled back in shock, stammering, Who is that?" Tin's whole body was drenched in cold sweat. He wanted to run but was trembling so much he couldn't lift his feet. Suddenly, from the pond, a burst of laughter erupted. At this moment, Hao, with his body covered in water, surfaced, his appearance so similar to Tin's that he was laughing heartily. Hao had often played pranks on his young master before. Each time, Tin would just ignore him, not saying a word, as if Hao's tricks were utterly pointless. However, this time, it seemed he had genuinely frightened his young master out of his wits. Realizing that the person in the pond was Hao, Tin immediately slumped to the ground and burst into tears. Hao, seeing his scared appearance, felt a little pleased. Recently, he had noticed Tin was withdrawn and sad when alone, so he had taken the opportunity to jump into the pond while clearing duckweed. He wanted to cheer Tin up a bit. Because Tin was so engrossed in chasing the butterflies, he had no idea that Hao had already jumped into the pond. Hao thought it was just a normal prank like many times before and expected Tin to look at him with disdain. He never imagined it would make the boy's face turn ashen. Hao, alarmed, scrambled out of the water and rushed to Tin's side, concerned. "Young master, are you all right?" It took a while for Tin to fully regain his composure. In that moment, he had mistaken the person in the pond for Phuc's ghost, returning. That evening, Tin refused to eat dinner again. The first wife went into his room to coax him, but he stubbornly wouldn't eat. Finally, she gave up and left the room. Left alone, Tin lay in bed, recalling the day he had gone to play in the garden a while ago. At that time, Tin was also chasing a butterfly in the garden. Unfortunately, he lost his footing and fell into the pond. Luckily, Phuc was playing nearby. Seeing him, Phuc immediately ran over to try and pull his elder brother up. But because Tin's body was larger than Phuc's, not only could Phuc not pull his brother up, but Phuc himself was pulled into the pond by Tin. Despite this, Phuc was an incredibly brave child. He struggled to push his brother towards the bank so Tin could climb out. By the time Tin scrambled onto the bank, Phuc was almost exhausted, his body drifting further and further away. Seeing Phuc's entire body gradually sinking into the water, with only one hand raised for help, Tin panicked and ran inside to call his mother. However, as Tin turned and left, Phuc used all his strength to surface, reaching out and gripping a submerged bamboo pole in the pond. Now, if only someone would come and extend a hand, Phuc could be pulled to shore. However, when the first wife arrived and saw Phuc's body clinging to the water, a malicious thought flashed through her mind. And at the moment Phuc thought the first wife was reaching out to save him, he was unexpectedly startled when she fiercely pushed him back down into the water. His two hands flailed desperately. Phuc struggled, gulping water in the pond, his head repeatedly trying to surface, crying for help in despair. Each time, the first wife would use her arm to push Phuc's head back down. It was unknown how many times she repeated this. A muffled sound echoed as Phuc's body was repeatedly pushed underwater by her. Finally, Phuc could no longer struggle. His entire body simply sank, freely, deeper into the pond. When the first wife returned to the room, Tin spoke up, "Where's Phuc, Mama?" The first wife didn't want her son to know about her wicked deed. She told him, "I've sent him back to his room." She also warned Tin not to tell anyone about Phuc falling into the pond. Tin assumed his mother was afraid Master Thoan would scold him, so he kept silent. And then, the next day, Hao discovered Phuc's body in the pond. Tin vaguely understood what had happened, but because his mother remained silent, so did he. After Phuc's death, Tin frequently encountered strange occurrences. He worried that Phuc's ghost had returned to seek revenge on him and his mother. Lost in his thoughts, Tin suddenly felt a pair of eyes watching him from outside the window. He jolted up and looked out. The house was pitch black, but Tin still saw a shadowy figure moving along the hallway. Despite his fear, Tin couldn't control his steps, as if someone was urging him. He opened the door and followed the figure. Behind Tin's room was the family's vegetable garden, and next to it, the duckweed-covered pond where Phuc had drowned unnoticed. Tin's heart pounded in his chest. He held his breath, slowly stepping through the darkness. The shadowy figure stopped at the end of the garden. Tin was curious, wondering who would sneak into their house at such an hour. He slowly took steps closer to get a clearer look. The sky was incredibly calm at that moment, with white clouds drifting by. Then, a single flash of lightning lit up the sky. And in that brilliant flash, the figure turned its head just in time for Tin to recognize it, crying out in terror. Tin, in a panic, wanted to turn and run, but the shadowy figure suddenly advanced, bringing its face close to his. Then it grabbed Tin's hand, dragged him to the edge of the pond, and forcefully pushed him into the water. Taken by surprise, Tin threw his hands forward as if to call for help. However, the shadowy figure let out a chilling, ghostly laugh. Phuc's ghost stood on the bank, his eyes bloodshot, staring at Tin. Behind Phuc was another figure, none other than Feng's ghost. In the days after she passed away from her illness, Feng's soul could not find peace, unable to rest without knowing her son's fate. Phuc always followed him just to see her son's silhouette. The day the first wife drowned Phuc in the pond, Feng's ghost was also there, her eyes filled with furious resentment, yet unable to do anything. At that time, her spiritual energy was still too weak. Later, when Phuc died an unjust death, the two mother and son ghosts found each other. Previously, when Phuc brought Phuc to Master Thoan, she hadn't hoped for her son to inherit any of Master Thoan's fortune. She only wished for her son to have enough food and clothes, that was all. Yet, the first wife was so wicked that out of love for her own son, she was willing to harm and kill another's child. Now, Phuc wanted to return and take revenge. She would make Tin die in the very place her son had been murdered. so that the first wife would experience the same unbearable pain of losing her only son. The next morning, it was the first wife herself who discovered Tin's body lying by the pond. She rushed over, pulled her son's cold body up, and wailed, "Tin, my son, wake up. Tin, please don't scare your mother." Hearing the commotion outside, Master Thoan's family members rushed out. Seeing Tin's pale, lifeless body, Master Thoan immediately stopped, unable to stand any longer. They had to go to him and support him. Master Thoan's eyes were red and swollen. How carried Tin's body back home? The first wife followed, clutching her son, sobbing until she lost consciousness. By the time she came to, the coffin had already been brought into the house. The servants rushed back and forth, preparing for Tin's funeral. All the villagers of Thuong Hien came to offer their condolences to Master Thoan's family. No one thought Master Thoan would ever face such a predicament. His youngest son, found not long ago, had lost his life. And now, his eldest son had also fallen into the pond and died. As neighbors came to help the family prepare the funeral feast, they whispered amongst themselves, saying that Phuc's ghost might still be haunting the pond. People who drowned often required a ritual called soul expulsion. However, when Phuc died, Master Thoan, not superstitious, hadn't allowed his family to perform it. Now, perhaps Tin's death was caused by Phuc's ghost, seeking a companion for himself. They kept spreading such stories, fearing that one by one, members of the family would be dragged down. Master Thoan pretended not to hear, showing no reaction. The others, knowing better, quieted down. Near noon that day, Hao finally found Master Mo Dao to perform the soul invitation ritual for Tin's burial. Of course, as soon as he stepped into the alley, Master Mo Dao sensed an unusual negative energy permeating the air around Master Thoan's house. This negative energy seemed to carry a deep, profound resentment. Earlier, when he came to perform Phuc's funeral, Master Mo Dao had vaguely sensed that something wasn't right, but because he was busy with other matters in the neighboring village, he had left in a hurry. He hadn't had time to fully investigate the truth of the situation. Now, once again, Master Mo Dao felt the oppressive force emanating from the negative energy surrounding the house. A newly deceased spirit could not possess such overwhelming power. Master Mo Dao raised his hand and performed a divination to see what had happened. Suddenly, his brow furrowed. It's truly a karmic consequence. He then quickened his pace towards the inner chambers. The first wife's wailing cries filled the air. Seeing Master Mo Dao, Master Thoan rushed out. "Master, you've arrived." Master Thoan stood before Master Mo Dao, his hands clasped, as if he had something to say but hesitated. Master Mo Dao then spoke. "Is there something else troubling your household, Master Thoan?" Master Thoan nodded slightly, then spoke of the rumors spread by the villagers that morning. Master Mo Dao shook his head, denying the rumors, but then sighed, his face full of contemplation. Perhaps Tin's death is indeed connected to Phuc's ghost, but the deeper cause may only be known by the living. As he saw the first wife writhing in grief by her son's coffin, Master Mo Dao was startled by the thick, dark aura surrounding her. The first wife's complexion was pale, devoid of any yang energy. Surely, she was the one who could reveal the truth to everyone. Moreover, Master Mo Dao also sensed other wronged souls lingering nearby. He looked at Master Thoan and reassured him, "With me here now, everything will be all right." Master Mo Dao did not immediately proceed with the ritual for Tin's burial. At this moment, he looked and saw the two vengeful ghosts clinging to Tin's body. Both gazed at Tin's pale face with a sinister smile. Then, their eyes turned to the first wife, who was agonizing over her son's death. Master Mo Dao instructed Master Thoan's family to sit down and talk. The first wife, supported by Nem, sat on a chair. Master Mo Dao looked directly into her eyes and said, "Madam, you know something, don't you?" The first wife whimpered. Hearing Master Mo Dao's question, she tried to feign ignorance. "What are you talking about, Master?" Master Mo Dao no longer beat around the bush. He looked at the first wife and slowly said, "I see the negative energy surrounding your body. A person who has died unjustly carries a deep, profound resentment. Tin's death here is that person's punishment for you. If you still refuse to confess the truth, not only will your own life be in peril, but your household will surely suffer retribution because of this matter." Master Thoan, hearing Master Mo Dao's words, looked bewildered, not understanding. He turned to his wife with an inquiring gaze. At this moment, the first wife felt utterly exhausted. Tin's death had stripped her of all resolve. She could no longer keep the secret buried in her heart. Weeping, she recounted everything that had happened on that rainy afternoon. It was her own greed and cruelty that had caused Phuc's death. If only I had reached out to save Phuc that day, perhaps Tin wouldn't have died such a tragic death, she thought. It was I who killed my own son. The night before, she had dreamt that Phuc and his mother appeared, their faces incredibly fierce and vengeful. They had forewarned her of her son's death. But at that time, she believed in the power of talismans, so she felt no fear at all regarding Phuc and his mother's revenge. Master Thoan, hearing these words escape his wife's lips, was utterly stunned. Even in his wildest dreams, he never imagined that his own wife was the one who had harmed his youngest son, and that because of this, it had tragically claimed the life of their own son. Master Thoan, with a trembling hand, pointed at his wife's face. "How can there be such a wicked woman?" The first wife sobbed uncontrollably. Now she felt immense regret. Perhaps she had finally realized her mistakes after Tin's death. But even so, everything was too late. Her son could no longer live, and if she were to win this inheritance, Tin wouldn't be there to inherit it. Master Thoan was so distraught he couldn't speak. He had always been plagued by the question of why he married the first wife. Previously, he had chosen her for her family's status and suitability. Even so, he simply hadn't given his wife the deep love that other couples shared. Apart from that, he had indulged her in everything she wanted, letting her have her way. When she bore him a son, Tin, what had he truly left for his children? The family's fortune was enough for Tin to live comfortably for generations. As for Phuc, because he was secretly born to Phung, she hadn't wished for him to inherit any of Master Thoan's wealth. Her dying wish was simply for Phuc to have a place of refuge. Furthermore, Master Thoan had kept the house in the district where Phung had lived, intending that when Phuc grew up, if he married and settled down, he could live there. Since Phuc was still young and had just lost his mother, Master Thoan wanted his son to stay close to him. He had also set aside a portion of money for Yen to be her dowry when she married. He had already planned out everything for his children, waiting for them to grow up before letting his wives know. But who would have thought that because of this, his family would fall into such a tragedy? What good was wealth when family members harmed each other to the death? Master Thoan also felt that he himself was partly to blame for this. He couldn't even protect any of his children. He laughed bitterly. How did things come to this, Lord? Oh, heavens. After the first wife confessed that Phuc's death was caused by her, she agreed that once Tin's funeral arrangements were settled, she would accept her punishment. At that moment, Master Modao looked at the two shimmering ghostly figures clinging to the first wife's body and gently asked, "Do you two agree to let go of all resentment and be reborn?" As soon as Master Modao finished speaking, two shadowy figures gradually appeared behind the first wife. They were the ghosts of Phuc and his mother. Because of their profound resentment, they had clung to Tin to seek revenge. Now, Tin was dead, and the first wife had also suffered the ultimate pain of losing her son. Phuc, seeing Master Thoan's haggard appearance, suddenly felt pity for the old man. The deep compassion remaining in their souls made the mother and son realize their own wrongdoing. They had spent all this time seeking revenge on the one who killed Phuc, but this had also created negative karma. Phung did not want her son to face further punishment in a fiery hell for seeking revenge. Both agreed to let go of their hatred and quickly move on to rebirth together. Phung looked at Master Modao, her face showing a gentle release. "Master, please help my son and me." Phuc stood beside his mother, holding her hand tightly, looking at Master Modao with grateful eyes. Master Modao nodded, then stood up. It was only then that the master breathed a sigh of relief, preparing to conduct Tin's funeral rites. The negative energy surrounding the first wife also dissipated. The next day, after the villagers carried Tin's coffin to the burial ground, Master Modao set up an altar that evening to pray for the souls of Phuc and his mother. As he lit the talisman to dissolve the resentment of the two wronged spirits, the shadowy figures of Phuc and his mother slowly appeared before Master Thoan's family. Little Yen saw this and cried out, "Mama, it's Phuc, Mama!" She then tried to run and embrace Phuc. Luckily, the second wife quickly held her daughter back. She looked at the mother and son ghosts before her, two faint, flickering shadows, and shed tears of sorrow. Beside her, Master Thoan was also deeply moved. Phung merely glanced at Master Thoan with a silent smile. As the talisman in Master Modao's hand turned to ashes, the ghosts of Phuc and his mother gently floated upwards, dissolving into the endless dark night. After a long time, having exhausted their karmic retribution, Phuc and his mother were reborn as relatives in another life. As for the first wife, after her son's unjust death exposed her dark secret, the pain of losing her child became unbearable. In a moment of despair, she bit her tongue and committed suicide, wanting to follow her son. Master Thoan's family, once bustling, was now desolate. Not a single sound of laughter or conversation could be heard throughout the day. Master Thoan was left with only one daughter, Yen. Therefore, in the time that followed, he devoted much time to caring for her, hoping to alleviate some of the profound loss in his heart.